Al Sadwa Rules Book Summary, or the 48 Laws of Power. How do you hold the reins of power? It was said about this book that it is the book that is indispensable if power is your goal. The book Power of Power is one of the best-selling books. This book has been a resounding success, as it has sold more than 1 million copies, and I appreciate Robert Greene for its author and glorification by the West. About the rules of power, this book brilliantly extracts a long history of the rules of power in 48 rules, presents them boldly and purely, and mixes the ideas of great thinkers like Bay Floss and others, and whether you like these ideas or hate them, you will find applications for them in real life. They are rules that fascinate every reader interested in acquiring, understanding, or resisting domination and sovereignty. The book is easy and presents each of the 8 and 40 rules of power in a separate chapter consisting of a brief introduction and an explanation of the rule, followed by examples from history showing the results of observing and violating the rule. Finally, it concludes with the author's personal commentary on them, and they all explain the rule clearly and insightfully. Criticism of the book Rules of Power. The book Rules of Power is contrary to morals, and many have considered that the author of the book is sufficient for this age. Although this book contradicts the traditional theory of morality that sees nothing but black and white in people's actions, most of the rules contained in the book can be used for good or evil according to the desire of each reader. And here I clear myself of the use of these rules in poetry. The book is a guide to understanding people's souls. Even if you don't like the book and don't want to apply its rules, it gives you a deep insight into understanding human relationships. Here are the 8 and 40 rules of Satwa in summary. The first rule is never show your superiority over a guardian, make your superiors feel reassured of their position and superiority, and do not let your desire to influence them push you to display your talents in front of them. Rather, contrary to what you want, they will feel threatened and worried by showing your guardians higher than their true value, and it will also raise them higher. Makamat al-Satwa. The second rule is don't trust your friends too much, and learn to take advantage of your enemies. Friends beware, because they are the first to betray you out of envy, and rust may spoil their loyalty and make them overpower you. But if you hire someone who was once your enemy, he will seek to prove his worth and loyalty to you, and he will be more faithful than friends. The truth is that the harm of my friend is always more severe and much more dangerous than the harm of the enemy, and if you do not find an enemy for you, then you must make an enemy for yourself. A wise man benefits more from his enemies than a fool does from his friends. Patsar, Jar, Steen. The third rule, help to achieve your goals by concealing your intentions. Conceal your intentions and actions so as not to confuse those around you, and prevent them from plotting or preparing for you. Encourage them to misinterpret your movements and leave them in the dark, so that if they realize what you are about to do, it will be too late to harm or hinder you. The fourth rule, always be economical in your speech, for too much speech wastes prestige and shows the person as less determined, and even trivial speech will appear to be more dignified and influential if it is indefinite and can bear a number of interpretations. Thus, those in power influence people with brevity in their words. Because the more a person speaks, the more likely he is to say something insignificant. The fifth rule is reputation, the mainstay of power. Defend it desperately. Reputation alone can intimidate and make you victorious over your enemies, and its fall puts you in danger, exposing you to attacks and blows from every side. So learn to defend it and nullify all plans hatched against it, and learn to breach the reputation of your enemies. Then he left them to the public. Rule 6. Attract attention at all costs. People value things by their appearance, and no one appreciates what they don't see, so don't be a nobody among the crowd, so that people don't ignore you, so you make sure to stand out and differ from others, and draw attention by showing status, vitality, or ambiguity, so as not to get lost in the fluid crowd. Rule 7. Take advantage of others' efforts, but keep appreciation for yourself. He uses the wisdom of others, their knowledge, and their own efforts to achieve what you deserve, as this will not only save your effort and precious time. Indeed, an aura of miraculousness was cast on it, and soon people would forget about those who helped you, and gratitude remains to you alone, so do not do to yourself what people can do to you. The 8th rule is to lure others into doing what you want. When you make others do to you what you want, you have control over them, and the best is to make your opponents join you so that they abandon their own plans and lure them to you with the gains that they can reap when they join you, and then impose your own terms on them. Rule 9. Win with your actions, not your words. The victories you think you have won by argument are imaginary, because the resentment and grudge you let go outweigh any momentary changes in the opinions of others. The greatest strength comes from other people agreeing with you without saying a word, just offering and not explaining. The 10th rule, beware of the miserable, so that their infection does not spread to you. The misery of others may kill you. Feelings are contagious like disease. A person thinks that they are drowning and that they should be helped, but in reality he is only pushing himself towards disaster. So leave them and mix with the lucky and happy, so that their luck may pass to you. 11th rule, learn to make others depend on you in order to maintain your freedom and position among people. You have to make them dependent on you and their need for their happiness, but you must not make them learn to dispense with the 12th rule. Pay with the best. Earn the loyalty of those he cares about, or elevate your hostility with generosity and kindness. Doing one act of kindness expiates dozens of treacherous acts for others. Showing kindness and generosity opens hearts, the most skeptical of people, and once the heart of someone you care has opened to you, you can move and manipulate him as you wish, and the gift you give at the right time makes you the horse that can be closed, extroverted Trojan. The 13th rule, do not seek sympathy or return the favor from people, but entice them with interests. If you need help from someone, do not remind him of the gifts or assistance you have given him, because that will make him evade you. Show him something that will benefit him from fulfilling your request and from his cooperation with you, and focus your words on these benefits if you convince him that he will fulfill your demands with enthusiasm. The 14th rule, woo as a friend to watch as a spy. One of the crucial things is to discover the insistence of your competitors, and you have to allocate spies for you to bring you their news so that you have precedence over them, and it is better for you to spy for yourself. Rule 15, crush your enemies without mercy. You know, all leaders since the dawn of history that they have to crush their enemies until the last breath, and some of them learned the lesson the hard way. With the ember that remains burning, no matter how small it is, it lights the fire in the end, and for this you must crush your enemies financially and morally. Rule 16. Master the art of absence to increase your dignity and status. Goods that are promoted among people, their price decreases, and the more you attend and speak, the lower your prestige and prestige, so everything that you have a good opinion of you with a group must be withdrawn until their words about you increase, and their admiration for you increases, and therefore you must know when you are absent. The 17th rule, terrorize others with surprise, and break the expectation. People are governed by habit, and they like to be familiar with the actions of those around them, because that gives them a sense of control, so they confuse your intentions with sudden and incomprehensible behavior, because that exhausts them in interpreting your movements, and spreads fear in them. The 18th rule, do not create a fortress that separates you from others, for isolation is a danger that threatens and does not protect you. The world is a dangerous place, and a person must protect himself, and you may think that fortification protects you, but isolation adds to the dangers more than it protects from them, as it makes it difficult for you to obtain valuable information, and it stands out as an easy target for attacks. The 19th rule shows who you are dealing with, so as not to infect anyone with ignorance. The world is full of different types of people, and don't think that everyone will respond to your strategies the same way. There are people, if you deceive or manipulate them, they will spend the rest of their lives seeking revenge on you. Rule 20. Do not commit allegiance to anyone. It is only fools who hasten to pledge allegiance and siding with anyone. Make, do not eat yourself, and do not commit to advocating anyone, in order to preserve your independence, that makes you master others, so the next you hasten among them, makes them ask for your support and support. Rule 20. Lure your prey by pretending to be less intelligent than they are. No one likes to appear stupid or less intelligent than those they deal with, but the real cunning is to feel who you are luring. Not only is he smart, but he is smarter than you, and once he is convinced of that, he will never suspect or expect what you are plotting for him in secret. The second and 20th rule: use the tactic of submission to turn your weakness into strength when you are the weakest. Do not fight out of dignity, and choose instead the tactic of submission. You must wait until your enemy weakens, and you should not give him the pleasure of defeating and crushing you. Rule 3 and 20. Concentrate your stroke. Conserve your strength, time, and energy by concentrating your energies into focused and effective strokes. One precious master is better than many crumbs by force, volatile over multitude, and if you are looking for a sponsor for yourself, find one who can do you more and for a longer period, and do not scatter yourself over a number of small patrons. Rule 4 and 20. Master the role of a vassal who has the qualities of a courtier. His courtier qualities make him prosper in the real world, in which power and political dexterity determine the status of all persons and all matters. Rule 5 and 20. Create an identity that gives you power. Do not settle for the role that your society imposes on you, but rather achieve a new entity for yourself by creating an identity that attracts you the power and admiration of people, and be careful not to let your audience ever get bored of you. Control your image to others, and do not allow others to define your perception of yourself. Using theatrical methods of speech and movement will increase your power, and people will no longer see you as ordinary human beings, but rather closer to legends. Rule 6 and 20. Make sure to hide your mistakes. You must always show an example of civility and competence. Make sure that your conduct is free from mistakes and disgraceful actions among people, and learn to hide your involvement by taking others as a scapegoat and cat claws. Rule 7 and 20. Create a cry or a doctrine for people to follow you, and glorify in humans an irresistible desire to believe in something, anything, and you have to make yourself an inspiring symbol of their hopes and self-esteem, by providing them with a reason, or a cause for which they sacrifice themselves. Provide them with ideas, arouse their enthusiasm, with words that suggest and do not specify. Humans, do not alienate, make their passion and poetic. Outweigh logic and realism. Rule 20 and 8. Execute your plans boldly and without hesitation. Do not begin a certain course of moves without being certain of the results. Complain about indecision and weakness of your will. Surrender to fear destroys you. Just as all forget. Respect the brave and the self-confident. No one accepts cowards. Rule 9 and 20. Plan everything in advance, from the beginning. Even the matchmaker. Things are taken by their conclusions, and you have to plan clearly for the path that leads you to the conclusion you want, taking into account all the obstacles, and calamities of fate that may keep glory away from you, and give it to others to plan things until their end, protecting you from ending the constant thinking about them, directing them towards events, and determining for you when you stop to reap the rewards, and it makes you continually steer the rudder in the direction that brings you the most power and glory. Rule 30. Act gracefully, and never show your struggles in getting things done. You have to show your achievements as if they were spontaneous and born of natural talent, and hide all the hard work, training, and trickery you spent to achieve what you want. Let others see that you made it easy, and you could have done so much more. Rule 30. Rule of playing cards. Come to others, choose from the alternatives that you specify for them the best ways to lure people, and control their will. It is what gives them the apparent freedom to choose between what makes them in reality a game in your hand, by specifying their options and the alternatives that are all in your favor, or that you put them between two comparisons, a dilemma, whereby they choose between two evils, the best of which is bitter and a sword. You are amazed that their feeling that they have the freedom to choose makes them accept things that they strongly rejected. If you impose it on them, Rule 30 address people about their hopes and dreams, not their reality. Most people like to ignore facts because they are painful and ugly, and they see who makes them poetic and imaginative as 1 and 6 deserts, to which they flock in droves. Learn to stir people's hopes and dreams, and you will gain great power. Rule 30 find out the weaknesses of everyone you deal with. For every human being, my weakness is a breach in the armor with which he protects himself. This weakness is often in the form of an unbridled desire or a hidden pleasure. Once you discover a person's weakness, you can use it to your advantage. Rule 30 act like a king, act like a king. The status you place for yourself is what people place for you, so act like a king who commits himself to honor and dignity, forcing people to look at him with awe and arrogance. Elevate your behavior so that people look at you as if you were born to be a king. Rule 30 we have stopped choosing the right timing. Never appear hasty or in a hurry, because this suggests that you are reckless and unable to control your feelings or the timing of events. You have always been patient and careful so that others can see your confidence that things will come to you in the end, as a detective who anticipates, trusting the right moment, touching events and distancing yourself when the time is not appropriate, and when the moment of capture comes, strike hard and without hesitation. Rule 6 and 30 despise what you cannot have. Ignorance is the best revenge. Attention to a trivial problem highlights it or gives it importance, and the size of your enemy is determined by your efforts to correct it. The need for things to correct themselves, and if you wanted something and could not achieve it, show your contempt. Rule 7 and 30. How dazzle the eyes. Use dazzling and symbols in appearance and performance, an aura of power that captures everyone who sees you. You have to create for yourself a festive atmosphere full of what catches the eye, and imposes your presence with their charm. It will blind them to the nature of your moves for power. Rule 30 be satisfied with what you want and act as others want. Showing you differ from what is common with your actions and words, and promoting all new and strange ideas about your society, shows people that you despise them and look above them, and makes them look for ways to destroy you. It is safe to blend in with people and show your respect for their traditions, showing your liberal and advanced ideas only to the idiosyncrasies of your friends, who can appreciate your genius. Rule 309 move the standing water to get the fish into your nets. Anger and emotion from serious strategic mistakes that lose you. You should not always adhere to sobriety and objectivity, but you must anger your enemy, while you maintain the calmness of a continental cup. Rule 40 denounce everything that may be given to you for free. Beware of what may be given to you for free, because that may be a way to deceive you or embarrass you and your commitment morally, so they want you to pay for everything you see of value. As the saying goes, when you don't pay for the goods, know that you are the goods. Rule 40, avoid taking the place of a great man. People respect origin and despise imitation. If you are caliphs and the son of a great person, you will have to make every effort not to lose your image in his shadow. Rule 2 and 40, strike the shepherd to scatter the sheep. You will always find behind the big troubles one hateful and arrogant person who can infect others with his grudges. If you leave him free, he will spread blackness in the hearts of people. Do not wait until blackness spreads, and do not try to win over this person, or appease him, and isolate him from people. The 3rd and 40th rule does not take people by force, but by courtship and persuasion. Tyranny and oppression of people always bring you down in the end, so learn to entice others to do what you want, because whoever you entice by seduction remains loyal to you. Rule 40 and 40 strip your enemy and make him unbalanced with a woman's strategy. Mirrors reflect reality, but they also distort, which is why they are ingenious tools for deceit. The woman's strategy is to imitate the actions of others in order to confuse and intimidate them and make them lose their balanced thinking, or to seduce them and make them feel that you understand what is in the depths of their souls, or to teach them a lesson that makes them taste what their hands have reaped. Rule 5 and 40 I invite people to change, but don't change too much in one step. We all theoretically understand the necessity of renewal, but in reality, in our daily dealings, we hold on tightly to everything we are used to, imposing renewal, shocking people, and pushing them to revolution. Rules 6 and 40 do not exaggerate your superiority. It is dangerous for those around you to see you as superior and distinguished over them, and the most dangerous thing is to appear to them devoid of superiority and weaknesses, and the best is to show others a defect that does not harm you in your personality and position, until you ward off envy from you, and make others see you as one of them, i.e. a human being with shortcomings. Rules 7 and 40 don't go beyond what you have planned. Learn to curb your enthusiasm when victorious. Moments of victory are often the most dangerous moments. A trait of victory may push you to arrogance and overconfidence that makes you go beyond the goal that you have always sought to achieve. It creates many enemies for you that you cannot defeat. The 40th and 8th rule is always the course of events, and does not freeze in one template. Your stagnation in a specific style enables your enemy to see your movements and read what you are planning, and facilitates his attack. You have to plan everything in advance so that you can see things clearly, but do not allow your enemies to understand what you are doing by keeping your movement, keeping pace with events, and knowing that reality is not certain, and laws change, so the best way to protect yourself is to change as events change, and do not freeze on a template one. Sadhwa Rules 48 quotes excerpts from the book. The laws of power here are some of Robert Greene's sayings in his book The Rules of Power. If your ideas are more creative than your boss's, attribute them to him publicly, and show everyone that your creativity derives from his guidance. Learn how to make your enemies work for you, just as you harness the sword to defend you by holding it by its hilt, not by its cutting blade. The wise man benefits more from his enemies than he benefits, and the wisest people benefit from his friends. Make sure of victory before you declare war. You are men of war whose schemes only the countries they conquered can understand. I was men of war whose schemes only the countries they had entered, conquered, could understand. Do not move your tongue before those less than you speak. If you keep silent for a long time, they will speak quickly, and thus you will read their true intentions. Make yourself a reputation based on a distinctive characteristic, and it will attract people to you and endear them in your presence. Reputation is wealth that you must carefully create and maintain, and always repeat all attacks about it. Once you reach the medicine of fame, you always have to renew it by adapting your style of attracting attention to you, because if you do not, then the fans will tire of you and move on from you to a new star. At the beginning of your rise to the top, you have to attract attention at any cost, but when you rise to higher positions, adjust yourself according to the stage, never show people. One way. Mystery works wonders for those who want to create an aura of power around themselves and want to be noticed. But it must be used rationally and with control. Invite others to make the effort, and you will be recognized, and this will show you an incredible potential. If you are one of those who think that the important thing is to do the work yourself, you will never be able to achieve anything great. Find people with skills and creativity that you don't have, then hire them and make your name pop over theirs, or find a way to impersonate their work and make it yours, and genius will emerge as well. A good warrior draws others to him, and does not go to anyone, so when you urge your opponents to come to him, you are consuming their strength. Glory your chainsaw moving up and down without hitting anywhere, give up the chainsaw, and show others what you want without arguing or hustling. Lift it 1 billion or your idea, and let gravity gently take them back to earth. Learn about the lucky ones to accompany them, and the miserable ones to stay away from. There are many types of abusers, you have to watch out for them, but the most insidious and dangerous ones are those who suffer from chronic discontent. Keep people's dependence on you, you'll get more from their dependence on you than from their kindness to you. If you are known to be cunning, then no one will be deceived by what you may appear, they are honesty, or sympathy, or generosity, but rather he will make people attend to you and become more suspicious of you. In these cases you have to play the role of outright corrupt. The easiest way to achieve fame and fortune is to make it clear to others that it is in their best interest to help you achieve yours. Information is vital to power, and just as you spy on others, you have to prepare for them to spy on you by spreading false information and spreading correct information of your choice to control the game. Learn to deal with men either by courting them or by giving them a right to cease to exist, because people take revenge for what hurts them, and they cannot take revenge for what destroys them completely. So if he wants to hit anyone, make sure that the damage you cause him will not allow you to return to revenge. We appreciate its value only when it is gone, and the longer the rainy days, the more we long for the sun, but in the summer days the sun becomes ever-present and annoying. Teach yourself to hide and make people long for you to come back. So know that true courage is to avoid conflicts. I do not win them, and when you see an idiot involving himself in the struggle, you make every effort to distance yourself so as not to add another idiot to him. Showing your intelligence rarely helps, so you should always show your intelligence less, and if people discover that you are much smarter than you look, they will admire you more, because you talk about your genius instead of bragging about it. In the world of power, most of the problems come from over-responsiveness to the moves of enemies and competitors, and these are problems that are easy to avoid if we stick to rationality and control our emotions. You cannot hit two targets with one arrow. If you confuse your thinking, you will miss the heart of the enemy, at least it will become, and the arrow is one thing, and without focusing your capabilities and your body, it is not possible, and there is still a place to pierce the heart. Be for every man what he likes to see, a scholar with the scholars, and an ascetic with the ascetics, for that will win you the hearts of all, because birds of all shapes flock to them. Know who you meet, and learn how to deal with the serious and the fun together, and to change your mood wisely as the situation requires. The fool is not the one who commits foolishness, but the one who cannot hide it. We all make mistakes, but the wise man hides his humiliation. As for the ignorant, he spreads his mistakes publicly. A good reputation often comes as much as you hide from people, not as much as you show them. If you can't be brilliant, work to be careful. Do all that pleases men by yourself, and as for the things that are troublesome, let another party do them for you. Any act, no matter how insignificant it is, if you perform it with steadfastness and composure, shows your abilities for what they really are, but much more, because that makes the beholders think that whoever masters what he does with such ease, his skill is much greater than what the situation requires. Discover the key to character in everyone you know, for that is the art of getting people to do what you want them to do, and it is an art that does not require force as much as it requires skill and training. For each person I sing to others royal in his own way, make your actions show that if you are not a king, you deserve to be a queen. Be classy in your actions, and noble in your beliefs and opinions, and work to prove with all your actions that you really deserve to be queen. You will not reap any power if you relinquish control and leave your rituals to adapt to all that fate brings you, for you have no choice but to lead time, or it leads you to destruction. Learn how to use the weapon of ignorance and exaltation, as it is the most polite method of revenge, because there are many that we would not know anything about if their famous opponents had not paid attention to them or the atmosphere of their color. Interest. Worse, revenge is to bury your opponents in oblivion, to let them dissolve into their insignificance, and not to be noticed. The flock members reject the black sheep because they are not sure if they are really one of them. These black sheep remain straying and wander away from the herd. Wolves hunt them down and eliminate them. Always stay with the herd. Plenty gives you security. Keep a difference like a circus, and never make it visible to others. When your opponent is hot-tempered, work to provoke him, and if he is arrogant, encourage his false self-esteem. The trick in making your opponent move is to create the situation that exposes your opponent to move. The skillful leader lures his opponent with the right bait and then attacks them with elaborate blows. Powerful people do not forget that everything that is given for free is always a trick, and friends who give you gifts without asking for anything will come after a while and demand much more from you than the price you would have paid for what you got. Thus, accepting gifts is often a losing deal financially and morally, so you have to learn to pay and pay well for what you get. Do not waste your precious time in seizing a sheep or two, nor risk your life in attacking the dogs that keep the flock, but lure the shepherd away, and the dogs will follow him, and then the sheep will fall into your hand one by one. My hardest step in persuading a person is to know what is going on in his heart, to choose the words that suit him. That is why anyone who wants to be convincing before the throne must know what pleases and repels the ruler, what he desires and what worries him, so that he can reach his heart. It appears from time to time, we measure it in your personality, it does not harm you, because the defect that the envious person perceives as the discerning person is that he has a defect, and therefore he will continue to examine you with the eye of a hawk in search of defects, because this is his only consolation. Do not leave him to choose the poison with which he harms you, but show him a contrived slip of intelligence and enthusiasm, which pleases him and keeps him away from his harm, and at the same time saves you again. The best form of organization is to remain our path and path of change, as the paths of victory are not repeated, but rather constantly changing. Military force has no fixed formation, just as water has no permanent form. The ability to adapt and change style to match the opponent is what we call genius.